As judges for debate, as is Sam Chapman, a UO student who partly comes to us, I've had him in class before, but has been involved in the Good Samaritan issue. He will be an impartial judge on this today. But he's requested that we film this portion of it, just for his own background, so that's okay. So just this portion will be filmed, no objections. Okay. We also have a guest just for the Good Samaritan, our Dean of Students, Paul Shang, is here. To again, shall the UO formally adopt a drug and alcohol Good Samaritan policy to provide a general immunity from misconduct allegations for violations of the UO Student Code of Conduct if the student acts in an effort to seek assistance for themselves or another person for a drug or alcohol-related emergency. So I'm just going to get the timer started, and then I'll ask you.
Okay. Good afternoon, guest judges, fellow classmates, and faculty. Thank you all for making time to come here today. We are here for one reason, and one reason only. That is to convince you to vote yes on Measure 3, which allows the University of Oregon, in conjunction with the ASUO, to adopt a Good Samaritan policy here on campus. The UO should join the other 90-plus colleges and universities across the nation that have Good Samaritan policies already in place. Research has shown at many of these schools that Good Samaritan policies save lives. If you vote yes on Measure 3 to adopt a Good Samaritan policy at the UO, you will decrease students' hesitation from calling for help in an alcohol or drug-related emergency. Students will be less worried about facing harsh university sanctions and more focused on saving a friend's life. A Good Samaritan policy will make the UO a safer and more secure campus. It will encourage students to act responsibly and in the best interest of their peers in the event that an alcohol or drug-related emergency does occur. Adopting a Good Samaritan policy at the UO is in the best interest of all of its students on campus because it puts the priority in an alcohol or drug-related emergency on calling for help first and without limitations. The more students choose to call for help and the quicker they make this decision, the more students' lives will be saved.
As a university student, I do not believe that the current code of conduct and residence-led mission goes towards the safety and security of students on campus. I believe adopting a Good Samaritan policy by voting yes on Measure 3 would do so. Yes on Measure 3.
Great. Thanks.
Right. The Good Samaritan policy would prove disastrous for the University of Oregon. First, this policy would encourage binge drinking by giving students a get-out-of-jail-free card anytime they wish to use it. Continuously allowing this to happen would take focus away from the true solution, education. Properly educating students on the effects of binge drinking would prove far more effective than simply providing them with immunity. In fact, the Daily Emerald released an article yesterday backing our claims that combating binge drinking with education is the best possible answer. Another adverse side effect of the Good Samaritan policy would be spreading Department of Public Safety too thin. As we all know, many assaults and armed robberies have been taking place close to campus. How would you feel if DPS couldn't respond quickly to your crisis because they're fielding countless calls from freshmen trying to get out of trouble? This policy would also prove damaging to university-affiliated programs such as the athletic department. By granting immunity to students, these departments' code of conduct would be undermined. Instead of allowing coaches to handle their troubled athletes accordingly, this policy would act as a shield to authority. Proponents of the Good Samaritan point to Cornell as a success story of this faulty policy. Their statistics, however, do not back up their claims. When the policy was implemented, binge drinking stayed the same while calls to campus police doubled. However, we have no statistics on what the effects were regarding the most important thing, student safety. Were fewer lives lost? Did fewer students get treated for alcohol poisoning? They don't say, but our guess is no. Lastly, this policy attacks voters' intelligence. In the event that your friend needed medical attention, what would you do? My guess is that everybody would call the authorities. To assume that you wouldn't is a blatant attack not only on your morals, but also on your intellect. The Good Samaritan policy would be detrimental to the University of Oregon. As the old saying goes, why fix something that isn't broken? Voting no on Measure 3 would protect the integrity of the university, as well as provide the safest possible learning environment for students. Vote no on Measure 3.
1 minute.
really what's at issue here. What's at issue is if you call, should you be subject to punishment from the university for doing the right thing? Almost 100 schools now have Good Samaritan policies, and they've been shown to work. And at schools where the safety initiative is passed, there's been no rise in drinking. So there's absolutely no correlation between an increase in binge drinking and implementing Good Samaritan policy. The only correlation that's been shown is that when you implement a Good Samaritan policy, calls for help rise, but everything else stays the exact same. And Good Samaritan policies are not ineffective, and the current policy is ineffective, as we have testimony to. When you get in trouble now, you have a staff class, you go and you stay for an hour or so, and you get this kind of scared straight program that really doesn't work.
Opponents of Measure 3 are trying to stop two major train of thoughts down your throat. One, promoting a safe campus. Two, encouraging responsibility among students. A safe campus is not one that looks the other way during emergency situations. A safe campus is one that responds in a constructive manner to educate and empower their students to make more informed and safe decisions and live healthier lifestyles going forward. This responsibility they're talking about encouraging. It seems to me as if they're assuming, the proponents of Measure 3 are assuming that you wouldn't make that call if there was no Good Samaritan policy. That all students aren't going to make that call. That should insult you. It insults me, and it should insult your friendships. It should insult the value that you place in the lives of those you care about. I have faith in you to make the call. I have faith in you to make the call, and I have faith in you to make the call. You should make that call because it's the right thing to do. And I feel that people don't make the call because they're afraid of getting in trouble. They make the call because the majority of students, one, don't know what alcohol poisoning looks like, and two, don't know the resources available to them. We need to educate, not excuse. Vote no on Measure 3. Go Ducks.
The question issue here is not should people make the call. At all times, people should make the call, but the question is should they be sanctioned for that call. We believe they shouldn't, and there shouldn't be university sanction. In conclusion, as an academic university on the rise, we should join the likes of Princeton, Cornell, Columbia, Yale, other Ivy League schools that have adopted Good Samaritan policy that shows that academic institutions don't promote binge drinking, but they promote safe and responsible students.
It is work for all, work for us too, and if one's in trouble, you have to call in. And there's campus crimes everywhere, the cops will take care of that. DPS doesn't do anything all day long, they can go with kids. So, yes on 3, work for us.
Okay, so I just mentioned this breaking down to a very simple thing. If you've seen through our ballot measure and our arguments in the pamphlets, a majority of students at Arizona State University, which is our comparable, they talk about 90 schools, a lot of them are smaller. A big school like Arizona State is like us. And what their survey of 6,000 undergrad students showed was that a majority of students didn't call because they're afraid of getting in trouble. It's because they didn't know what was available to them. And because they didn't know what alcohol poisoning looked like. Education is what needs to happen here. This policy is a mere band-aid for the problem of binge drinking and underage drinking on campuses. We do need to educate our students, and it's the students that are in these emergency situations that need the education the most. We need to educate, not excuse. Please vote no on Measure 3 and join us.
Just one more point to add to that by having this policy, if anyone calls for help, right now if somebody's really sick, what this does is then they say, well look, here is an educational class that you can go to. So now, if somebody is passing out, getting drunk, getting sick, they're at the point where they need help. They need an education, and that policy is withheld from them.
Okay, let's Okay, so I told Sam, who was helpful to one of the campaigns and is working on trying to promote the Good Samaritan policy, so outside of the campaign, to make a quick pitch about what's happening moving forward, if it's something you're interested in.
Yeah, so Sam, I run the Students for Sensible Drug Policy group here at the University of Oregon, and I've actually been working on implementing a Good Samaritan policy here for about 2 years. You guys might have seen in some of your research. My name mentioned it in some of the past Senate meetings. But we're a lot closer than we've ever been before. I've been working with Paul Shang, which is why he was here earlier, in talking with administration on developing a Good Samaritan policy. As is right now, what happens if someone does call for help, let's say, they are put through the student conduct code process. So what happens in that is the administration will continuously say that it's educational. Partly it is. The other part is that there are punitive sanctions. So your student conduct record stays here at the university for 5 years. It's a private record, but anyone within the university can access that record. So this has implications on whether you're applying for grad school, whether you're studying abroad, whether you're trying to get into honors college, whether you're trying to get in a program at the University of Oregon. Anyone that's in the university can have access to that file. And essentially, I mean, do the math, that could jeopardize it in some way or another. So what we're asking right now, anyone who actually wants a memo, we have a memo that we've been giving out to administration and things like that. And we're basically asking for a Good Samaritan policy that removes the caller and the person who needs medical attention from the student conduct code process. Right now, the student conduct code director is the one that handles this. It's in my personal belief and Students for Sensible Drug Policy's belief that this needs to be handled by a health professional, not by an administrator who doesn't necessarily have the health background. So yeah, I have actually a huge meeting on Monday with DPS, Health Services, Paul Shang, Student of Conduct, and basically we're just going to sit down and really start to have a back and forth about what we want out of this policy. Right now, they're really interested in the alcohol part. Some of you may have read the Oregon Daily Emerald article about how they're going to beef up alcohol education for freshmen, which is great. Like, that's awesome. We're right behind them. But they're kind of a little shady on addressing the drug issue. And it is my opinion that, if you're going to address one drug, alcohol, and leave the rest out, you're turning your back on a lot of students. We don't condone or condemn drug use, but we're pretty realistic in saying that, we realize it happens. Let's, educate people. People need to know what the policies are, things like that. So we're working with the administration to hopefully get them to recognize that, students need amnesty to call for anything. Then it's that hesitation that was mentioned earlier that really just causes people to not make the call. So yeah, and I'd just like to say, if anyone is interested in working on this issue, we are the policy that we're pushing for is probably going to be the most liberal in the country. And that's because we go to the University of Oregon, so that's pretty cool. So if anyone's interested in helping me with this, whether it's, PR, legal, research, anything like that, definitely talk to me after class. I have some cards, a lot of materials that if you guys are interested in. And if you are interested in just supporting through your signature, we have a little petition that I'll be bringing to the meeting on Monday that says, this many students, this many faculty are interested in having the University of Oregon look at this issue on a serious basis, and it needs to be all-inclusive for all people that need medical attention. So does anyone have any questions, I guess, on any of that? I could go on for hours, but am I forgetting anything? No? Okay, cool.
You'll hang out a little bit.
Yeah, I'll be there. Cool.
Thanks, Sam.